welcome to the CuHRious Show. Super excited to have you on. How are you doing?
Hey, hi Ronak. Thanks for inviting me. The industry is evolving, AI is coming, the candidate is becoming more smarter, right? The processes, they know how to hack the processes, and timing is important. So, how, whatever inbound, outbound applicants or the candidates you have, if you're able to evaluate them on time, matters a lot. The HRs out there, when you choose your interviewing partner, right? Don't think that you have, it's 100% responsibility of the partner to make sure you'll get a good L1 to L2 selects because ultimately it's you, right, who has to hire an engineer, not them. They are providing your service. Don't do too many switches. If you are doing the switches on an average less than 1.5, you'll get rejected. Doesn't matter how good you are, trust me. I have telling you with my own experience, your resume will not get shortlisted in those companies. They're very strict. Try to mention your side projects. If you have published any paper, research paper, if you have any contribution in open source, genuinely mention that in your resume. That becomes the highlight for the hiring manager. Your resume will get shortlisted. I'm telling you. So engage yourself in doing some side projects if you have not done that, so that you can mention it genuinely.
Hey Archit, welcome to the CuHRious Show. Super excited to have you on. How are you doing?
Hey, hi Ronak. Thanks for inviting me. Yeah, I'm doing good. How about you?
All good, all good. I know you've been planning this for a while, but again, thanks for coming on, and look forward to an engaging conversation talking all about HyreSnap. But before we get started, Archit, why don't you just take a few minutes and just talk about who is Archit, what is Archit up to for everybody listening in?
Yeah, sure, Ranak. I'm Archit, also a co-founder and CEO at HyreSnap. So I'll share a little bit about my background. So I completed my engineering from IIT BHU back in 2015. Then joined a company, worked for a couple of years where I was doing the infra level uh, automation, infra level engineering. Then moved to joining another company. We were into primarily building a SaaS tool for an advertisement tech company. So we used to run a terabytes of data to make sure the ads are going live within 10 milliseconds. So there I got a lot of exposure into front end, into back end, little bit into DevOps as well. So proper engineering where we could build complex systems and all. Then end up joining another fintech company. There I joined very early on. Then went on building. It became 250 engineers organization. Fortunately, I was involved into the hiring processes, defining some of the interviewing processes, resume screening processes, working closely with our CTO, our head of engineering, and also with the TA and the HRs. So that was my very first encounter, Ranak, with the TA team, HR team, where I could think beyond Rangoli or Fun Fridays, which they used to organize and we used to attend. So I could notice how much genuine efforts they are being putting in building the entire funnel for us to hire a great engineer into our team. I mean, that was the exposure given over the years, or I have acquired over the years out of my interest by conducting so many interviews and also specifically in this organization, building the processes around hiring, attracting great talent. That led me to start HireSnap. So, HireSnap is actually a leading tech interviewing platform and an HR tech platform where we have variety of products. So we have products for candidates who is seeking a job, which is basically an AI resume builder and a mock interviews. Then we have a product for universities and edtech companies, which we call it career services
Mhm,
for their placement teams.
mhm,
Then we have a product for tech organizations like interview as a service platform, or we call it interview marketplace. So we are a leading tech interviewing platform in India. And if I talk about another product for organization, it's called Smart Sourcing. This is basically outbound offering, outbound hiring solution, again built for to hire an engineer within the organization. So we have variety of products. This is because of the team which we have built over the years. With a very lean team, we could able to build 4 to 5 products and able to find the few, not few, able to find product market fit across many of our products. So that's a big brief background, Ranak. We are on to, since you asked what we are on to, we are actually on to defining the processes. Since the industry is evolving, AI is coming, the candidate is becoming more smarter, right? The processes, they know how to hack the processes, and then we are on a journey where we'll work closely with the organization, evolve as per the technology, and provide them the cutting edge solution so that they can hire great talent within defined time, and also within the talent pool available there in the market, right?
Lovely, lovely. Thanks for the intro, Achit. And I'll just take a quick segue into what you said about Rangoli. It's close to my heart, right? Because this is the function that I'm a part of, and it's sad that people who don't actually experience working with the people team, right? And the first experience always comes with the hiring team. But from an outside distance, the question always comes: "Are people team karta kya hai? What do you do? You guys leave early," and then when you don't leave early, right, it's like, "Arey, what are you doing in office?" Right? It's so not. I mean, I guess you don't have exposure. That's why people form those opinions. But glad that
Absolutely.
you still got to working with them and actually saw the kind of all the work that happens at the back end, not just during performance appraisal time, throughout the year.
In fact, there is
Yeah.
one company, Ranak, which is into a retail industry. Their major functions are in US, one of our customer, and the engineering function is primarily in India. So you won't believe their HR work till 10 p.m. in the night, and they start 9:30 a.m. in the morning. So definitely they are growing. They are hiring on a hiring spree. But otherwise, I've seen the HRs working day in and out, putting their 100% to discover the right talent and map it to the right opportunity. So definitely hats off to the entire HR industry, TA industry, who's been hunting, improvising a lot to retain those talent within the organization and keep on attracting the great talent.
Yeah, yeah. It's not just about bringing them on board, right? You have to bring them on, make sure they are there, they get their best, they are retained, right? So a lot of work happens. Anyway, thanks for acknowledging that. But Achit, again, coming back to what we're talking about, right? So curious again, right? That yes, you worked with the talent acquisition team, right? You were obviously you were hiring, right? So I'm sure you saw some problems, right? That you particularly identified that, hey, there's a lot of problems here, uh, which led you down the path to sort of starting up and your whole entrepreneurial journey. So I'm curious to understand, like, uh, taking a step back, what was that inflection point? Was there an inflection point? Did you see a bunch of problems, right, because of which led you to starting up your own thing?
It was no, I mean, nothing of inflection point, Ranak, to be honest. It was over a period of time what I have realized or experienced again working with the HRs, hiring engineers, conducting, I mean, I would have conducted close to 700 interviews before I started HireSnap. I have been mentoring some of the candidates, graduates, or about to graduate from our college. They used to call me sir. So, sir, please, एक बार ये resume review कर लीजिए, like that. So they used to
Yeah.
approach. So there is no inflection point, but talking about the problems which you have mentioned, definitely I would want to talk about majorly four problems. So firstly, I'll talk very fundamental steps involved in the tech hiring. So first
Yeah.
thing, any company who is hiring, they get a mandate from the business, from the CEO or the CHRO, that we are about to hire, say, two platform engineers, one tech lead, two SD3s, and one SD2, for example. When the mandate comes, the internal TA team, they start reaching out to the candidates, right? And when you start reaching out to the candidate, it is a very slow process. It takes time to build conversations, to set up conversations. It's not then immediate you call and he will respond, right? Since it's a slow process, they want to increase the velocity. They bring in few hiring partners into the process or consulting firms. So they share the portion of the mandate with the hiring agencies, where they also augment in outbound reach to the candidate, and basis the interest, they share the CVs over an email to the HR, right? Now the another problems gets created in this step. Now they have to screen their own CVs, which they're sourcing internally. Now they have to screen the CVs which is brought by those hiring agencies or partners. They have to screen those, either the HR or the hiring manager. And trust me,
Correct.
people say that it takes on an average 5 to 7 days for even getting the shortlisting. Again, another week is added in getting the shortlisting from there, right? Now the shortlisting is done. Post that comes finding the L1 interview slot. And this entire tech hiring, this is
Yeah.
the biggest bottleneck, Ranak.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you have to find an engineer who can conduct your L1 tech interview, this is the most difficult task. And because of it's not unlimited nature, it's very limited in nature, right? You have 2 or 3 slots per day, depending upon the organization size and all, right? So you have to use it very judiciously.
Correct.
So this is another problem. So till you source a candidate, until you finish the very first tech round, lot of time, lot of resources get invested into it to reach to a stage where the L1 interview is completed and you receive the feedback. This is the biggest problem which I could figure it out. Second problem, Ranak, which I would want to talk about, we are living in an era where engineers knows how to build an awesome resume. There are many advanced tool available in the market
Oh yes.
which helps you to craft an awesome resume, perfect resume, which will beat the ATS, right? And once it lands into the recruiter's hand, they have also mastered this skill of communicating in a way so that they can buy an interview. When
Buy
this
an interview.
happens, a lot of candidates get into the L1 funnel where the internal engineers are not very happy to interview. They are okay to interview, they are not okay to interview an average candidate. They like talking to candidates who are strong, decent skill set,
Correct.
at
Correct.
least relevant candidates. So that leads to another problem which I wanted to mention, right? And if you look at the third problem, so historically, India is always, I would say, um, labor surplus market, Ranak.
Yes.
This
Yes.
leads to thousands of people applying for a single job application, right? Now, if you consider the inbound applications, there are enough research, especially in India, Ranak, which will tell you that not more than 50% resumes are being opened by the hiring manager or the HR.
That's
And
true.
not just that, I mean, the recruiter, the tech recruiter who is looking at the resume or the hiring manager, they have to go through 100 interviews just to find those 4 or 5 relevant candidates. So that's the biggest problem, and it's a daunting task to go through those many CVs. And when the CVs looks very similar in nature, and that's why they prefer to outbound strategies rather than inbound. Inbound just is a medium of, what can I say, just a practice for a brand building exercise. But they rely heavily on the outbound. Outbound also includes employee referrals, internally TA team reaching out to the candidate, or they engaging with the hiring partners. So this is the third problem, majorly what we have seen run up, or which we could figure it out over a period of time and thought of organizing this entire industry.
That's a really good insight, Archit. I before we move on, I have a couple of questions. Um, this source to L1 interviews, right? From starting from sourcing, that's like step zero to the L1 interview. What's the average time you see that it takes to do that?
In India, Ranak, I would say it depends on organization to organization, but it is not less than a month, to be honest. But this stat changes very significantly when platform like HyreSnap come into the picture. So I'll give you an example. There is one leading SRE company who are actually also a cloud native monitoring system. So they experience somewhere around 60 million requests per minute. So they are one of a partner company based out of India. Very lean team, 29 engineers team working remotely. So they were hiring a Golang developer, and the candidate joining date was 12th of August. They conducted the first interview on 10th of August, 7 p.m. So on Sunday, they have finished 4 round of interviews, including co-founder round and everything. And on 12th, he was supposed to join another company. It's a big MNC company everyone knows, based out of Japan. He ended up choosing the another company. The candidate dropped that offer and end up joining in this company. So these scenarios are very rare in nature. But again, it comes with only when you get the candidate evaluated just in time. If you were delayed just by 2 days, you would have missed this candidate. So the timing is actually very important. And this actually leads me to Ranak, the fourth problem which we have realized was there is a gap between the engineering hiring manager expectation and the technical recruiter's capabilities, right? So suppose if I conducted 10 interviews as a hiring manager, engineering manager, I come back saying, hey, I find, the SQL skills are not that great in the candidate which I have interviewed. That was a major rejection why I have rejected. Or say the design skills were not that great. The HLD, they were not able to provide me a holistic design of the scale which we are looking forward to, right? The technical recruiter cannot do anything about it. It can only be judged in the L1 interview. And that's where exactly solution like ours can bring in our expertise, get in those details and information about the candidate. So these are primary four problems, Ranak, which we have majorly
Got it. Got it. I think
experienced.
this is a good time to segue into the the solution, right? So we spoke of the problem. Let's also talk of your solution, right? Which you've built and it's working so well. So what did you what was the solution sort of which addressed all of these problems?
Coming to the solution, so if you look at, I mentioned one thing. A good engineer doesn't mind interviewing a good candidate, but he doesn't like interviewing the average candidate, right? And also, you have hired this engineer not to just to conduct interviews. You hired him to build, deploy, scale, right? And then hyperscale kind of
Hmm.
thing, right? So you don't want, or the engineers himself doesn't want to invest too much of his time in interviewing
Correct.
and evaluating the candidates, right?
Correct.
And then HireSnap bring in those pool of experts. So we have 1500 plus experts on our platform,
Hmm.
spread across 9 different time zones, who basically bring in their own skills where they interview your candidate. So you bring in your candidate,
Hmm.
they
Hmm.
conduct a proper L1 tech interview, how you would conduct it internally, and you get a published, organized report, right? The entire interview gets recorded. Not just that, the questions, the code which the candidate has written is a very structured format. So for example, Ranak, so you conduct an interview of an engineer, right? And I
Hmm.
also conduct the interview of the same candidate. Or the
Hmm.
HR comes to both of us saying, "Hey, Ranak, how is the candidate?" You might say he's good, we can proceed with the next round of interview, right? And I can say, I don't think we should proceed ahead with this particular candidate for the L2 interview, right? And now suppose the HR asks us this question, hey Ronak, was he good in problem solving? Probably the answer would be same from both of us. Was the candidate good in say software engineering concept? Was he able to write sufficient LLD design, or was he able to design the HLD system or not? Probably answer would match. Removing the subjectivity from the tech interview, moving it to little objective. It cannot be objectify completely 100%, but up to 70%. Doing that up to 70% will solve a problem. And this is basically a classic case, Ranak, which we have seen working with the US companies. So every interview which they conduct, they have a defined parameters across each interview, and they actually rate, put in those ratings, their comments across all those parameters they have to define and everything. So it brings the objectivity in the entire interview, and that's what we have scaled this similar concept. We define whatever a hiring manager needs are. We get on a call with the calibration with the hiring manager for the calibration. We set up those parameters, define the interview flow, and the experts on our platform follows those guidelines and conduct the interview. So,
Understood.
so some
Understood.
solution which can help you to scale where you can evaluate a lot of candidate just in time. The timing is important, Janak, here. It's not evaluating the candidate, but when are you evaluating the candidate also matters a lot. I gave you an example of the candidate joining another company in just last 2 days of before joining the another company. So the timing is important. So how whatever inbounds, outbound, applicants or the candidates you have, if you're able to evaluate them on time, matters a lot.
Got it. So, what I'm hearing is, so every company is limited, as you said, by time, by bandwidth, right? So, you're just sort of eliminating that. You can probably do hundreds of interviews in one day, which obviously is not possible. Let's say if I was doing it internally, because I simply don't have the manpower capability or bandwidth for that, right?
Absolutely. And it's a
Got it.
market of lemons. Good engineer is actually being I mean, in true sense, right? Is actually being chased by 100,
Yeah,
20s, or 30s of recruiters at a given point of time. So timing will matter
unfortunately.
a lot.
Yeah, true, true. Again, the one interesting point, like US, I know even I have seen this. US does this very well, where you structured interviews. Somehow we, again, I won't generalize, but India, we somehow always seem to screw that up. The intent is always there, that we'll make proper questions in the must format hoga and all, but you come to the interview, and after that when you calibrate, everyone's like, yeah, shit, I forgot. There's a 4 out of 5. No one knows why that 4 out of 5 is there. It happens. I've also been guilty of that. I've made very nice formats and then I just completely forgot about it during the interview. uh, Got it. Cool. So I have one question, right? Which is, I'll be honest. Like I've experienced interview outsourcing to a limited extent. It's worked well for us, right? We were doing this at MPL. But I want to understand from you, given that your vast years of experience on this, what's the flip side of this? Like, what are the uh, let's put it to context, right? People listening in, someone, right, who's evaluating, maybe sort of outsourcing interviews. What's the flip side they should know, right? What are the challenges that a company can likely face, right, if they outsource interviews and probably don't do it well, right? So what are those pointers you would give them?
So, Ranak, I don't see any flip side. To be honest, we have to choose the right partner when you are outsourcing your interviews. They should not have delivery mindset. They should have a collaborating mindset, making win-win situation for both of them. It might be there. It might be achieved maybe just by reducing your margins a little bit. But choosing the right partner is very important, Ranak. One advice which I would want to give to all the HRs out there: when you choose your interviewing partner, right? Don't think that you have, it's 100% responsibility of the partner to make sure you'll get a good L1 to L2 selects. So I'll tell you, there are companies who work very closely with us, provide us the timely feedback, collaborate with us in terms of arranging calibration call with their hiring manager, their engineering managers. They experience definitely significant better L1 to L2 ratio when we recommend any candidate from our platform. So they experience up to 80-82% L1 to L2 selects. So this is the only advice: provide them the timely feedback and be open for a collaborative mindset, not just that we have given it to them and now it's only their responsibility. No, you have to work together, because ultimately it's you, right, who has to hire an engineer, not them. They are providing you a service, so you have to be proactively working closely with them. The intent has to be there from the partner side, of course.
Got it. Got it. And any best practices you would share, is not just to the HRs, right? Because this decision probably also comes from the hiring managers, especially the senior hiring managers. Also, any best practices that you would want to give to these folks?
No, I mean, very similar, Ranak, which I've already mentioned. You should have a mindset of co-creating solutions together instead of having that service delivery mindset is something which I would recommend everyone. No best practices. The calibration call has to happen. I have seen many HRs where they don't even have time to do a calibration call. So that's a sad state. It has never happened when we are working with a US customer. They are more than happy to do calibration call. They in fact like somebody is interested in understanding what kind of engineer we are looking forward to. We There is one company, a Series C company based out of India, very well known, raised big funds. So they are one of our partner company, but very sad that when we are trying to reach out to them, because we see that the interview quality is not that great, because we know the gaps, and when we're trying to fill in those gaps from our side, the HR is actually limited. HR has an intent, to be honest. But she's limited because the engineering team is not able to take out some time to come on a call with the HireSnap team. So this is the only thing which I would recommend everyone. Calibration call is important to understand what kind of an engineer you're looking forward, so that the interview process can be set. But otherwise, there are many upside runner. You'll find you'll be able to increase the velocity. You'll be able to conduct the structured interview. You will be able to assess or identify the right talent at the right point of time because of the scale, because of the defined process. Because
Got it.
we just do I mean we do only internet, right, day in and out, so we have optimized a lot of processes in the back end to conduct interview better than any organization which they would be doing in general.
Of course. Of course. And this time problem that you said, it's not a time problem. It's an intent problem in India, where calibration becomes a very last step, and I've seen that across the board. Right, it gets reduced to just emails, five people emailing, whereas the future of someone's candidate is on stake. Right? I wish people took it more seriously. Very fair point. Archit, so
In
we
fact,
we spoke. Yeah,
one more thing I would
please go
want
on.
to add here, since you have mentioned the intent part. So I was reading a research done in 2022, I guess, or 23. Last week I was reading that. So 42% of the JDs have to be rewritten, and this is survey done by, I guess, Indeed, where
Okay.
the first draft of the JD attracts a lot of unqualified candidates. So almost 50%, 42% JDs has to be rewritten.
Oh.
That because the person who is writing the JD doesn't have sufficient time to collaborate, brainstorm in the very first go.
Hmm. I, I'll not get into JDs because now you have many tools, ChatGPT and other platforms, who literally writing JDs for you, right? I just don't buy into that. I mean, yes, ChatGPT use it for English, right? But not to give. Just there are so many companies who just say that, just we'll make the JD for you. I find that super cringy. Again, like, not dissing these companies. I find that super cringy because you're literally hiring. Hiring is the most important thing that a young company can do, right? And you can't just outsource this out to an AI. That's one thing that you should take time to actually collaborate. Like you said, talk to a bunch of people, right? Talk to your managers, see what they do, and it's not only the skills; it's also the competencies. Right? वो तो है ही नहीं. Most of the companies don't
True.
have it. Right? It's super cringy when people use ChatGPT just to put up a JD, and it's very evident. Like, I can just look at multiple JDs and know that ये ChatGPT से आया है.
In fact,
Yeah.
Ronak, just to add again here, so I have again seen a lot of differences when a US company write a JD versus an Indian company. And I'm
Yeah.
actually thinking when you're talking, I should write a LinkedIn post. I could acquire certain gyan, to be honest, from different people about. And I've seen some differences also. So in US, people try to sell company also. They mention the compensation well in front, right? Uh, there are many advantages. In fact, a fun part. So HubSpot has published another report on the JD side where they mention if you write a well-crafted JD will attract. It's basically also a best practice for SEO purpose, where your job is getting ranked on Google and candidates are able to discover your job with a certain keyword. So it's very important to craft a right JD if you're crafting it. Otherwise, as well copy it from somewhere and not doing. I
Yeah.
mean, there's
Yeah,
no point of
obviously,
spending
like,
time if you're not doing it 100%.
it's actually better to just copy it from big companies, and I'm not sorry that I've done that. I've gone to Google and I've sort of copied, because come on, like, Google is the best at it. So I've not copied Ditto, right? But some parts of it I've actually picked up instead of putting it in a blender. I don't know. This is a fun segue. I don't know if you remember, one post had gone viral. One JD rather had gone viral of a startup company where they'd written in Perks. They're based out of Bangalore. Perks is Bangalore weather. I don't remember the
I
company, but I
see.
distinctly remember that JD. That Perks was Bangalore weather. Anyway,
Right, I
coming back,
see.
Archit, we've been talking of problems and solutions, right, and how HireSnap is solving for it. And one of the reasons why I started this section of the podcast, is so that we can actually just do sort of like a show and tell um, of the product also, because a lot of people want, they're curious about the product, but obviously the product is not available on your website, right? You have to go through sales, and I'm sorry, but not everybody wants to go through sales. But that was the whole intent, that just give people a quick glimpse into the world of the tech world rather. So it'd be lovely if you can sort of share screen and just walk us through maybe the interview outsourcing product, how it looks and how it feels.
Sure, sure. So shall I share my screen, Ranak, then?
Yeah, yeah, perfect.
Cool. Awesome. So I'll keep it very short because
Sure.
fundamentally we understand this category has been very well known, at least in the in India. So I'll keep it very short in that sense. So before that, I mean, just to define certain persona of our expert at HyreSnap. So as I mentioned, 1,500 of them, they are present across different time zones, and average experience is 6 years plus, and sorry, average is 8 years plus, and minimum is 6 years of experience whom we engage with. And before we onboard any expert on platform, we basically conduct the 2 round of interviews. In the first round, it's a pure technical. For example, a front end engineer, senior front end engineer applies to become an expert. He has to go through a proper front end interview where we check JS, React JS, front end concept, browser concepts, and everything. Then in the second round, he or she conducts the interview for one of our existing panel. And only 7% people whom we have interviewed have actually become qualified interviewer on our platform. So
Oh,
we have kept very high bar, so very high standard of our experts coming into the system. Again, very tech focused. I'll be very honest, we have also tried product manager interviews, but we failed very terribly. So again, very focused only on the tech, which we cater at HireSnap, right?
got it.
So this is the evaluation report, Ranak, where any interview which we conduct at HireSnap, so who evaluated the candidate, right? Is it recommended or not recommended? Then few detailed ratings, then summary highlights, lowlights, scope of improvement. The entire interview gets recorded, where you get to see the audio and the video along with the code he or she is writing. The
Okay.
questions are tagged, and you can see there is an individual rating on live coding. He scored 4 out of 5. This is a question asked by the candidate, so very structured format. If you can get to know what happened during the interview, what is the timeline. You don't have to watch the entire video, there are always questions tagged. Just click on it and you're done. So now imagine you have a resume along with this interview report, so it becomes very easy, very streamlined process for your HRs, for your engineering managers to go through those shortlisted qualified profiles and schedule L2 or drop them there itself if they have not performed there. So significant time. If I have to quantify it, it would be 80% of their engineering bandwidth which gets saved in this entire process. Right. So
Sure.
coming back to the platform, so this is a platform for the HR. So I'll start with the dashboard side. So this is a dashboard. Once we onboard any partner company with us, they get this dashboard where they are able to create different jobs. So this is how any job would
Okay.
look like. This is how we define the interview structure, interview flow, right? You have a special notes which you would want to add to the candidate or for the expert who is conducting the interview. So leading product company, scalable, when designed application. So he has some context apart from this, right? So our expert would be conducting the interview. Once the job is uploaded, they would have a option to add a candidate, select different job which they would want to. Once that is done, select a time zone, add a candidate either manually or just upload a CSV. Once the candidate is added, the next action step, of course, is to basically add an interview slot. So suppose
Okay.
candidate says, I am available today at 9 p.m. You add a slot, and also tomorrow 8 a.m. So add another slot. the interview would get scheduled, and our average scheduling time is only 15 minutes. The moment you add a candidate, upload a slot, within 15 minutes the interview will get scheduled, and you will be able to access the report for the completed interviews like this.
Got it. So within 15 minutes, how are you doing that? That part is automated, right? You're not manually doing it.
Yes,
I understood.
that's correct. That's correct. Absolutely. So this is how we, and there are a lot of supporting features, download report, team integrations, referrals, other things which you would want to leverage from any interviewing platform, right? So we have built a very complex algorithm system, since you mentioned about this, Ranak, where how we are able to, this is very interesting, very complex engineering again. No AI in this, in matching the expert, but a lot of complex algorithm which we keep on innovating more so that the scheduling happens. So as of now, 92% of our interviews are auto scheduled. We have availability of next 2 weeks from the experts on our platform, and it auto schedules the interview basis, again, lot of parameters, right? And only 8% is something where our team's ops team has to get into it and get those interviews scheduled. And this 92% I'm talking about across different geographies, not just in India.
Understood. And
So
do the hiring team also have a say? Like, do they say that I want an interviewer like this with this sort of experience, or that's up to you?
yep. So when we onboard any company, so we define certain parameters, right? Say a unicorn, a product company would have a very different
Okay.
requirement from, say, a startup with 3 engineers, 4 engineers, or a leading IT service company. So we do certain configurations when we onboard any company with us, and across JD and across different hiring managers, because not every hiring manager in an organization would have a similar requirement. They would have a very different requirements as well, right? So in that scenario, we have a configuration done on across individual jobs as well, Ranak. They have a complete say, and that's the beauty. If it is not tailored, not customized, that means we are not solving the right problem, Ranak.
Understood. I'm assuming skills and everything plays a big part there, right? Like people with
Absolutely, and the
skills
depth of
and
skill
everything. Yeah.
also. So there's a company, again, US based company. They want us to discuss only for 45 minutes, Ranak, only on the projects. No problem solving,
Acha.
nothing. And 50 minutes on general concepts of engineering. That's it. So very different experience working with some of the US companies. So, and they have a purpose defined to it also. Why? So it is completely tailored.
You should write about all of this on LinkedIn. Like these are best practices that people should. It's good information, right, for us because we're always unfortunately one step behind US, right, in pretty much everything, right, and
I don't
like
think
you
so,
said
Ranak,
that.
you would be one step behind, but yes, I get it. So, in fact, we are writing Ranak, not newsletter, sorry, we are writing an ebook
Oh,
soon,
nice.
a couple of ebooks which would be made public. So, that is purely we would want to contribute back to the ecosystem we have learned. In fact, Ranak, I'll be very honest, we don't have a sales team right now at HyreSnap, and we have been working with almost now 130 leading companies. So that primarily has happened because we got a lot of referrals, a lot of help from the HRs, from TA, from engineering managers who have been referring. So I mean, we would want to give back to the ecosystem where a technical recruiter or a TA manager or a TA head has a proper roadmap, collect those insights. So we collect these insights while talking to you, people like you in the industry, right? Day in and out. So we collect, learn first-hand experience, and definitely we have an intent to give it back to the ecosystem, Ranak. So soon you'll see
Yeah,
some content being generated from HireSnap.
you should, especially on structured interviews. Trust me, it's going to be super helpful because I'm telling you from this industry, and I am also behind, like, very behind. I was just researching what Jeff Bezos does, right? So he has those three questions, and Elon also does that. Right? Like he asks, would you work with this person? Would you find this person inspiration? And there was a third one, right? Thinking like let's bring that into our at least our leadership to mid leadership hiring interviews, right? Where whoever's doing the interview, at the end you have to fill those things up, right? So uh, whatever best practices you've learned, I think you should share. uh, Maybe not in this podcast, because I think it can go on for hours, but later. uh, cool. Actually, I think I'll segue to a second part of this conversation. At the beginning, you said like HireSnap has multiple, at least three things that you spoke of, right? The second one was on interview sourcing, right? So I'm curious, like. Uh, it's completely I won't say it's a different thing. It's kind of it's related in hiring itself, right? But interviews and sourcing is the one step before, right? So I'm just curious, what happened there? Like, again, what were the problems you saw? I think you touched briefly on it, but what were the deep level problems that you saw in engineering especially, which led you to, building something for sourcing? And after that, we can get into the product also, and maybe look at it how you're solving sourcing.
So, Ranak, again, if you remember, I touched upon one point where the hiring managers has a certain expectation while they look at the CVs, while they look at the engineers as such, right? But sometimes technical recruiters fail to understand that because of the background which we come from, it is extremely difficult, Ranak, we need to understand for a technical recruiter to actually screen at that level or understand the resume at that level. So it is extremely difficult for them to do so, right? And this is basically very easy for engineering or any engineer to understand where does the candidate stand in terms of coding, problem solving, software engineering concepts, database concepts, right? With simple, very few simple questions also, not very complex in nature, right? So in order to fulfill this gap, Ranak, so my background is engineering, my leadership background is engineering. So we have built teams in past, products in past. So we have hired, scale. So we have first-hand experience of what happens when you don't get a filtered funnel, right? So what we do in our smart sourcing, right? We not only source and curate the relevant candidate, we actually put them through HireSnap Tech interviews through our interview marketplace. And if they actually perform well in HireSnap Tech interviews, then only these candidates get shared with the hiring manager directly. And the beauty, suppose I conducted, say, 15 interviews over a week, two candidates got selected in HireSnap interview, right? And suppose one candidate seems to be good to the hiring manager, another candidate didn't seems to be good, doing good, though we have recommended at HireSnap. Now the hiring manager again can come back to the HireSnap team, referring why did you forward this candidate when he has not performed well in SQL. Without conducting the interview, he has a say of not conducting the interview. Though the profile looks strong, but in SQL he doesn't perform well. So this is the power which we would want to provide at scale to all the hiring managers. So bring in our own engineering skills because we come from that background. We fill that gap which I was telling you. We become the front liners of the engineering managers. We not only source, we conduct the tech interview and then create a filtered funnel. So you are able to hire within three profiles or max five profiles. So
Understood.
cut short the entire process of hiring, interviewing. Because if you remember, step by step, so we are solving with this scenario, we are solving till L1 interview completed with that structured report. So becomes very easy for the hiring manager to proceed ahead with the remaining steps and the
Got
HR
it. But
also.
I'm curious on the sourcing part. How are you doing that? Like, do you have a team who's calling candidates, or you're doing this online?
Again, so it's a mix, Ranak. It's been almost 9 months we started this, though HireSnap is almost 3.5 years old. So in smart sourcing, if you remember, we have another product which is for a job seeker. So almost every day we experience 4,000 engineers coming in, building their resume on a platform across India, US, and Singapore. So that's the number which we are experiencing. There are engineers who end up taking mock interviews also. So our funnel is getting created from that channel as well. And of course, we do have a lot of access to job boards. We do have built a lot of automations also on different platforms. I would not name it, but yes, we have built a lot of automations. So if somebody start actively writing on Medium, you get a signal that he is actually might be looking out for a job change. If somebody start posting a lot on LinkedIn or start updating his GitHub profiles and everything, so that's few signals which you start collecting, understanding this
Yeah.
engineer is actually out in the market.
I'll tell you another one on LinkedIn. When you update your वो जो the job वाला जो section होता है ना नीचे में, what are the skills,
Open to
what have you
work.
done? No, not that, not that.
Correct.
Against the job, generally started a new position, and then moment people get very detailed that I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. That's a crazy signal that that person is looking out. Got it.
Absolutely.
Uh, Got it. So, if there is a tool, maybe quickly you can take 5 minutes and have a look at the product.
So actually, that's the tool, Ranak, which I was showing it to you. Do you want to
Okay.
see a resume builder? But maybe we can skip that because it's available in the public. Anyone can try it out.
Hmm.
They can open app HyreSnap.com, build their
Got it.
resume if they would want to, looking for a job
So,
change.
so this resume builder was again like this is like an acquisition strategy, or was there another thought behind why you build this?
Yeah, actually, while I was working in my previous organization, that was my side gig, to be honest. I
Acha.
started building resume builder. Then there was a lot of AI available in the market. I wanted to get a hands-on, a few friends who were experts. So I took their help building this entire platform. So, and then when I left my job, the platform was already live. We had almost PK users already building resume on the platform. So
Oh,
some
nice.
decent revenue was coming in. And then somehow few influencers started using it. They posted certain jobs. I don't know why and how they have discovered. Then we got users coming in from US market as well. So that's how it went viral, Ranak. And I have few suggestions for the job seekers who are actually building out their resume, Ranak, which
Yeah, please,
I
please,
think
please
might
do.
be very useful for them. What I've seen, I mean, these are few stats which they should know for any candidate who is building a resume, an engineer. So first thing, which is a sad story, 50% chances your resume will not even get open. So you should definitely tap different channels, not rely only on one channel while you're reaching out or targeting your dream company or set of dream companies. So that's the first tip.
Okay.
Second tip, almost 70 to 75% of your resumes get rejected by the ATS. These are research done by Capterra. It's a review platform. They have mentioned that your resumes don't even get reach to the recruiters. Again, so you should have your resume very simple, no tabular format, no fancy charts. If you're not a designer, if you're a designer, then that resume itself becomes your portfolio. But otherwise, if you're an engineer, keep it very simple, keep it 1 or 2 page max. If you have 7 8 years plus experience, up to 2 pages fine, otherwise 1 page is recommended. These are few things which I would want to mention on the stat side. What I genuinely would advise working with a lot of companies, I have experienced that you should not do lot of job ops. Sh- Don't do too many switches. If you are doing the switches on an average less than 1.5, you will get rejected. Doesn't matter how good you are. Trust me. I have telling you with my own experience, your resume will not get shortlisted in those companies. They are very strict, and especially good companies are very strict. They don't prefer such candidates. So that's number one. Number two, try to mention your side projects. If you have published any paper, research paper, or if you have any contribution in open source, genuinely mention that in your resume. That becomes the highlight for the hiring manager. Your resume will get shortlisted, I'm telling you. So
For sure.
don't forget to mention that and engage yourself in doing some side projects if you have not done that, so that you can mention it genuinely, right? And as I mentioned earlier, 42% of the jobs are being rewritten after certain amount of time, maybe months, 2 months, 3 months. So don't get into the mode where you have to hack or include certain keywords to beat the ATS. That actually doesn't help. So be very genuine
Yeah.
while you are representing your skills on the resume.
This is helpful.
So,
This is useful. Yeah, it's true. I mean, 1.5 years, even for me, 1.5 years is the number I look for, right? Some companies now are okay with it. They at a very junior stage they feel be entertained, but then you get asked a lot, right? And Yeah, that's true. And
Okay.
what was the second point you mentioned, Richard?
The
This
skills
was,
part is one I mentioned, right representation of the skills, the projects,
oh yeah, the
highlight
projects, right,
projects,
right, right.
highlight
Yeah, 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 yeah.
particular project.
That is, in fact, yeah, you know what I do is when I actually get a CV, I scroll like them at the bottom. Especially this is, let's say, if you're less than 5 years of experience, freshers the first year I don't. I just scroll to the bottom and see what is the extracurricular activities you've done, what are the side projects you've done, right? One advice that I keep giving people, and people don't take it seriously, is writing on LinkedIn is always net positive, right? It's never net negative. I know the platform has its own set of problems, people make fun of it, but if you're just writing it to share knowledge, right, don't care about likes, don't care about what people are saying. You'll anyway not really get that many likes. If you're writing good content, you don't get like. If you're writing rubbish and clickbaity contents, LinkedIn you get likes, but that always helps, right? So there have been instances where uh, out of thousand, right, the guy who's the guy or gal, right, who's been writing regularly has reached out to me and like, hey, I know you, I saw your posts, and I immediately forwarded their profiles, right? So I always say it's always net positive to anybody who comes up to me and tells me, hey, why do you write on LinkedIn? It's not like I'm looking for a job or anything, but it's always good to do that. uh,
Okay.
Cool. This was super helpful. I'll convert this into a video for for job seekers, straight from a senior engineer. Uh, I have a set of AI related question that I ask anybody who comes on, right? Because we love talking about tech and the future of HR tech, people tech. The future of any tech is AI. So, uh, and I firmly, fundamentally believe that AI is going to play a big part in hiring. Right? I hope it's sooner than later, and I hope it's in the right sense, not to do harm. Right? Like you said, people are just inserting keywords here and there because of AI. That's the wrong way of looking at it. But from a product standpoint or from a whole ecosystem standpoint, Archit, what are your takes on how LLMs and generative AI can help our recruiting function and overall people function?
Yes, Ranak. So if I talk about hiring specifically, right, I see a lot of scope where, see, in India specifically, we don't see much inbound applications are being processed, right? 50%
Mm,
is just a number I'm telling you, it might be less than 30% based on my conversation with some TA leaders out there. A big organization, I'm
mm,
saying. It's not even
mm,
30%. They rely on
mm.
their hiring partner, they rely on the outbound outreach, right?
Correct.
So, and when somebody actually applies to your job post, your two, three steps are already done. You don't have to sell the company, tell them about the company, tell them about the role. If you have written the nice JD, assuming that,
Mm,
right? So two, three steps are already being done, right? You just need to
mm,
complete the rest of the process. But the problem is the number of volumes which gets into the funnel, that's actually
correct.
defeating the entire process, and there I believe lot of scope where AI can actually help. It can be AI interview runner where our team is also constantly working on it. It can be an AI assessment, but assessment somehow we don't have a much or higher adoption rate in India at least. So maybe an AI interview is a very good space where I believe or I suggest a lot of companies to come in into this space and actually solve for this particular. If you're able to solve, a lot of problems would be resolved. You don't have to even outsource your interviews to HireSnap if we are able to crack this. And we are also constantly trying, Ranak, to solve this problem where with AI if we can do that interview. So that is definitely one scope. And in US, Ranak, I have seen people are more receptive when you talk about AI LLMs. In India, still the mindset is of manual. But good thing over a period of time because of COVID,
It's changing.
there is a research which says 72% of the organization either went completely remote or to a hybrid mode. So they have become open for video interviews, which used to be 100% in-person interview. The engineer has to come in, give the interview in person, right? So this trend has changed completely, where person is absolutely okay, or the manager is absolutely okay to interview the candidate virtually. Some organization which we work, especially Gurgaon based, Hyderabad, they prefer at least one face-to-face interview round as well before releasing the offer letter. But most of the interviews they finish online only, right? So a lot of scope in terms of filtering out the noise from the signal, or signal from the noise rather, where companies in US are more receptive for these technologies as compared to India.
Got it. Archit, at the start you mentioned एक तो AI interviews, right? We'll maybe come back to this one, but you said AI
Correct.
assessments. What do you mean by AI assessments?
It's basically mock interviews.
Oh, okay, understood.
It's
Okay. So the
yes.
mock interview product that you have,
And
is it
career
human
services
based?
also. So yes, it is human based, Ranak, and we also have career services. So yes, so this mock interview is human based.
Career services. What do you mean by that? I haven't heard of that before.
Career services. So in all the universities, you have a career services department, especially in US, which is responsible for consulting the learners throughout the journey, help them to find a job.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good use case. Yeah.
Yes.
Got it. Got it. Cool. But yeah, excited to see what's happening with at least how our function adopts AI, right? And just anecdotally, right? So you mentioned about COVID. I was very like an early guy at Darwinbox. This is pre-COVID and post-COVID. I saw such a fundamental shift in people's thinking, and I'm saying purely India, right? Because I was mostly India and Indonesia. I had to go and explain people why you need an HRMS, right? And these are very large companies. They're like, hey, Excel mein ho jayega, right? I don't really need that. But after COVID, when work from home, remote, and all of that started, people started honestly realizing its power. That where how HR tech, how why HR tech is important. So I don't think anyone, that barrier is gone, right? People never question HR tech anymore, right? People still question HR analytics now, but HR tech is not being questioned at all. And on video interviews, you're right, it's just become the norm. Like while you were talking, I was just thinking, us also at my current company, we only do video interviews. Just the last round of interview for senior hires, we call them at office, right, for the culture round to sort of get a vibe check, right? But everything is online, everything is on videos. Our entire campus we did was on videos, which would have been, honestly, now that you say it that way, it would have been unthinkable pre-COVID that we'll release 40, 50 offers without even seeing the person. Right? Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Achit, this has been a very insightful conversation. There's been a lot of key takeaways, especially for engineers listening in. But just wrapping up, what's next for Achit? What's next for HireSnap?
To be honest, we would want to double down on our distribution across different products, especially on the organization side, our smart sourcing and our interviewing platform. So we would be focusing a lot more on our distribution, because we come from the engineering background, doesn't have much experience around distribution. Right now, it's primarily the customers which we have acquired are organically being referred by somebody or through our personal network. But we would want to build a formal engine where customers are able to discover HireSnap. And also, as I mentioned, which you also mentioned in the in between, that we should publish some content around HR, TA, engineering, how the interviews should be structured. So we have lot of learnings, not because of our background, but also talking to a lot of HRs, engineering managers, doing a lot of calibrations call day in and out, doing recalibration call, making few mistakes, learning from them. So we definitely have a lot of ideas around how. To be honest, there are few HRs, TAs, Ranak, who reach out to me even for writing a JD. So they explain me over a voice notes. They send me a WhatsApp voice note. This is what I'm looking forward to. Archit, can you please write a JD or maybe design an interview flow for their internal interviews? So I do sometimes personally help them, but maybe if I can formalize through HireSnap in certain way, might be very useful. So these these are the two things, Ranak, which will continue building on the content and our distribution.
Lovely, Archit. You should
These
do
are
that.
two
It's going
primary
to be super
things.
helpful. It's going to be super helpful. I look
Yes.
forward to that. And for everyone listening in, I'll leave Archit's LinkedIn and all about HireSnap in the comment section. You can go in and just check out. And I'm sure you must be available on LinkedIn, right? People can reach out to you on your LinkedIn, or
Yep, yep.
maybe an
I'm
email ID
available on
also. I'll drop
LinkedIn.
in.
Yes,
Perfect.
yes. Very happy to chat. Otherwise, also in general, apart from HR, also I do a lot of interesting things. I do cooking, I do sometimes running. So definitely happy to chat. Or if you play football or badminton, we can definitely catch up.
I'm sure. Just for people listening in, Archit lives really far away in Bangalore, so that's there. Cool, Archit.
Yes.
This was fun. This was very informative, and I'm sure like people listening in, that was the whole intent of the podcast, right? To share actionable insights that people can actually follow. And so this was lovely, Archit. Thank you for coming on, sharing your knowledge, talking about HireSnap. Thank you.
Thanks, Arang, for giving me the opportunity. Thanks, everyone, for listening to this.
Cool. Take care. Bye bye.
Sure.